lang natin.
Okay na? Session resume.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? I hear none. The motion is approved. The session is suspended.
Angel,
Bangkay, kamusta?
Pare, pag nominal, dahon-dahon lang.
Check, sound check. Check, check.
hey, sound check, 1, 2.
Kim, pumasok ka na, Kim.
Sound check. Check 1, 2.
check,
A, sound check.
check,
Sound
check,
check. Hello.
check,
Sound check. Hello. Hello. Sound check.
Sound check. Check 1,
Check.
2.
Hello.
Apa yung prutas yun? The prutas? Na? The prutas?
Now you know.
Ma'am Tin, kayo.
Ano yung ano? Ano ba sa isa?
Mr. Speaker, I move for an additional reference of business. Proceed with an additional reference of business. Yeah. Gusto mo para mawala yung takot ni Fidel, unahin na natin siya. Gusto okay lang. Fidel, para mawala ako, break mo na lang. Huwag mo magsalita. Yun. Ito nakaturuan ka na. Mr. Speaker, I move that we proceed with an additional reference of business.
Dadagdag mo lang sa
Additional. And then request sir. Tuloy-tuloy mo lang.
kasi hindi na siya manli.
Thank you. Ma'am Tin, additional SFA. Para mawala yung ano mo. Additional reference. Speaker, I move that we proceed with an additional reference. Basahin mo lang yan.
Sessions resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with an additional reference and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill.
Additional reference of business, bills on first reading. House Bill number 7633, defining the crime of sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Representative Nograles, 1.
To the Committee on Revision of Laws and Committee of Welfare and Children.
House Bill number 7634, providing for the promotion of film and television tourism. Representatives De Venecia, Romulo, Benitez, Singson Mihan, Bagatsing, Legarda, Escudero, Arenas, Santos Recto, Savellano, Sagarbaria, Yap Victor, Aragones, Revilla, Hoffer, Vergara, Torres Gomez, Gatchalian, Garin Sharon, Alonte, Macapagal Arroyo, Bolilla, Villar, Atienza, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Maceda, and Vargas.
To the Committee on Public Information.
House Bill 7635, expanding the assistance for students in grades 4 to 6 and teachers in private elementary schools. Representative Mariano Hernandez.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7636, creating the Manila Bay Development Authority. Representative Garcia Jose Enrique.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization and the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7639, lowering the minimum height requirement for applicants of the PNP, BFP, BJMP, and Bucor. Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Bill 7640, Developing and Strengthening the Agricultural Education and Training in the Country, Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Higher Education, Technical Education.
House Bill 7641, declaring the month of October of every year as the National Cooperative Month in the entire country, Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Cooperatives Development.
House Bill 7642, declaring August 5 of every year as a special non-working holiday in Anini, Antique, in commemoration of its founding day to be known as Araw ng Anini Buhay.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7643, prohibiting the indiscriminate disposal of electronic waste, Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Ecology.
House Bill 7644, upgrading the basic salary of governmental medical doctors from salary grade 21 to salary grade 23, Representative De Los Santos.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 7645, extending the availability of the 2020 appropriations to December 31, 2021, Representative Almario.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Resolutions, House Resolution 1202, directing the Committee on Cooperatives Development to inquire in determining the courses of actions of the CDA to help cooperatives cope with the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, Representative Robes.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1203, urging the Committee on Appropriations to restore the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget of the DICT amounting to 46.6 billion pesos, Representative Benitez.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Resolution number 1204, expressing the profound sympathies and sincerest condolences of the House to the bereaved family of Honorable Maria Bernardita Ditas B. Ramos, Representative of the 2nd District, Sorsogon, Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1205, honoring the life and legacy of Honorable Arnulfo Noli P. Fuentebella, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1206, expressing the sense of the House to strongly condemn the presidential pardon of convicted murderer ex-U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton, Representatives Brosas, Zarate, Gaite, Colyamat, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1207, commending Representative Sarah Jane Elago Kabataan Party List for being recognized as one of the 5 of the world's most outstanding politicians between the ages of 18 to 35, with the One Young World Politician of the Year Award, Representatives Abante, Kabatbat, Fortun, and Brosas.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1208, strongly urging the House to increase the funds to be appropriated to the DTI, its attached agencies and attached corporation, Representatives Gatchalian, Romualdez Ferdinand, Abante Zubiri, Garin Sharon, and Rodriguez.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Resolution 1209, directing the DA to release its criteria in the identification of farm-to-market road projects in the legislative districts in the country, Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand, Romuan, and Romualdez Yeda.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Message from the Senate. Message dated September 9, informing the House that on September 8, the Senate designated Senators Gatchalian, Binay de la Rosa, Pacquiao, and Ontiveros as on freeze to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill 1365 and House Bill 6910.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communication. Letter dated 11 September 2020 of BSP Deputy Director, transmitting to the House duly certified electronic copies of certain BSP issuances.
Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Committee report. Report number 493 of the Committee on Public Works and Highways on House Bill 7669.
Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with leave of the House, I move that we open the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? I hear none that the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I now move to recognize the Honorable Claudine Dayan D. Bautista from the party list Dumper PTDA for her to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Diana Claudine Bautista is hereby recognized.
Saan? Sa file. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, I rise on a matter of personal and collective privilege for our public transportation drivers and commuters, the backbone of our transportation system, our economy, and the nation. Our country and our fellow Filipinos are being forced to endure unprecedented global health crisis. COVID-19 has crippled the world, and we as a one nation are doing everything we can do to stay afloat in these turbulent times. We have created committees and bodies, allocated additional budget for COVID-19 response, and adapted the new normal way of life. However, there is a pressing concern that we might have overlooked: the public transportation drivers and commuters. Since the beginning of the ECQ last March, public transportation has been largely suspended. With this suspension, the lives of public transportation drivers have been adversely affected. Based on the DSWD list of PUVs targeted for assistance, there are more than 232,962 PUV drivers nationwide that have been directly hit by this pandemic. While some have been allowed to operate, the great majority of PUV drivers have been forced to stop working, and some have resorted to begging on the streets. We commend and we are grateful to DSWD and LTFRB for promptly responding to House Resolution 1003 filed by this representation, which urged them to expedite and facilitate the release of financial assistance to our public transportation drivers. As of July, DSWD has released financial assistance to 186,940 taxi, PUV, TNVS, PUJ, motorcycle, taxi, and TODA in NCR alone. However, despite these efforts, they are simply not enough for our public transportation drivers. Thankfully, we have seen the resumption of public transportation during the past few weeks. In fact, it was only yesterday that LTFRB allowed an additional 1,159 jeepneys with 28 new routes in Metro Manila. We recognize the effort of the DOTR and the LTFRB and IATF in considering the gradual increase of public transportation on the road. However, public transport supply remains insufficient. The supply cannot simply match the demand of commuters. In the same manner, we bring to this honorable body's attention another question. Sino ba talaga ang nahihirapan pag kulang ang sasakyang pampubliko? Your Honors, it is our commuters. Ang nais lamang makakuha ng sasakyan para lamang makarating sa kanilang pinagtatrabahuan. Due to the lack of public transportation, they are forced to endure long lines either under intense heat or punishing rain, all the while gambling their health and safety and praying that they will not fall victim to the dreaded virus. Simple lang naman ang gusto nila, ang makapagtrabaho para maipakain sa kanilang mga pamilya at makauwi ng ligtas. In the current setup, not only is there a glaring lack of public transportation, but commuters are also more exposed to the virus when they queue for hours waiting for their ride. Instead of protecting our people by reducing public transportation, we may be in fact increasing the risk of spreading the virus. According to the House of Representatives Committee on Economic Affairs, the effect of the lack of public transportation in Metro Manila alone, as of August 5, still amounts to 2,356,205 person trips, or 1 million stranded passengers per day. Even if the additional supply is provided by October 5, according to the current timetable, there will still be a gap of 513,975 or 223,000 stranded passengers per day. We are still very far from the number of public transportation units available pre-COVID-19. According to the Committee on Transportation, pre-COVID rideship for the MRT3, LRT1, LRT2, and PNR was at 900,000 passengers a day. For the buses, it was 2.35 million person trips per day in Metro Manila and surrounding provinces. Jeepneys were at 6.76 million person trips per day in Metro Manila and its surrounding provinces. Mr. Speaker, I'm not implying that we go back to pre-COVID or normal operation, because COVID is still evident. However, since we are under GCQ, we have to address the lack of transportation vis-a-vis the influx of commuters. Mr. Speaker, the threat of getting COVID is real and terrifying. Our frontliners, doctors and nurses, are expressing serious concerns on how using public transportation can increase the rate of infection. We acknowledge these concerns, and we have their best interests at heart. More importantly, let me state that our end goal is the same: to ensure that the spread of COVID is prevented or at least minimized. And given the current GCQ classification, there is an expected influx of workers going to work, majority of whom rely on public transportation. We cannot allow our commuters to cram into vehicles. Therefore, if we continue to limit public transportation despite more people having to go to work or to run errands, how do we fill the gap without compromising our people's health? As the representative of Dumper PTDA Party List and the Vice Chairperson for the Committee on Transportation, I strongly urge an immediate increase in the number of permitted PUVs, specifically jeepneys, buses, taxis, TNVS, UV Express, tricycles, and if possible, motorcycle taxis, as well as increased operational capacity for our LRT, MRT, and PNR, all of which shall observe strict proper health protocols. In fact, the chairman of the Committee on Transportation already wrote an appeal to the IATF to increase the number of PUVs and open more public transport routes. An increase in public transportation addresses the plight of our drivers, our commuters, and our economy. By allowing more transportation to ply on the road, our drivers will regain their jobs and once again provide a stable source of income to their families instead of waiting for donations or assistance. It also answers the demand of commuters to have more available rides and at the same time practicing safety health protocols. An increase in the availability of public utility vehicles equates to an increase in the number of commuters accommodated, but at the same time, maintaining the prescribed 1 meter apart. Also, the more PUVs we have, the faster commuters will be off the long lines they have to endure. Therefore, the lesser the exposure while queuing and while inside the vehicles. Mr. Speaker, public transport plays a critical and indispensable role in jump-starting our economy. Without adequate public transport, the very movers of our country, the riding and working public and our businesses will grind to a halt. And if this lack of adequate and safe public transportation persists, this will cause a domino effect among our key industries, the effect of which might be irreversible. An absent workforce could mean a comatose economy. If we fail to act on this matter, we may be creating an economic sand trap that will take years or decades to recover from. It is our responsibility now to look for ways to balance our present situation. This proposed measure of allowing more PUVs that observe health protocols to operate is one way of addressing this pressing concern. To our drivers and to our commuters, while we are advocating for the increase in the number of PUVs that are allowed to operate, please do not be complacent. It is your responsibility to follow safety health protocols at all times. Wear a mask, wear a face shield, bring your own sanitizer, and wash your hands regularly. Avoid talking in lines and in the vehicles. And maintain a safe distance from other people. You have a crucial role to play in showing that these measures will help prevent and not worsen the spread of COVID-19. To end, I wish to reiterate our appeal. Let us allow our public transport sector to be part of the great effort of rebuilding our nation. Only if we are together in this fight can we truly heal as one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Apid de Los Santos of the party list Ang Provinciano for his manifestation.
The Honorable Lapid de los Santos hereby recognized.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bilang kinatawa ng Ang Provinciano Party List at supporter ng uring manggagawa, lubos ko pong sinusuportahan ang posisyon ng ating kapwa mambabatas na si Representative Claudine Bautista. Since the beginning of the pandemic outbreak in March, the public transportation sector has been paralyzed by community lockdown guidelines imposed by the government. This affected not only the commuters, but also our drivers, conductors, and everybody in the public transportation. Nakakaluha po tuwing nakikita natin na imbis ng ating masisipag na tsuper ay nagdadrive at nagsisilbi sa ating bayan, nakikita natin silang nalilimos na lang sa kalsada. Despite easing the restriction under GCQ, we are still looking at thousands of drivers unable to ply the streets to work. We are still looking of the masses chasing jeeps because the number of operating units are insufficient. So I applaud and commend Representative Claudine Bautista for initiating this. And rest assured, we are one in supporting your call, your cause. The economy is elaborately connected with transportation. Iangat natin ang kalidad ng buhay ng ating mga tsoper. Iangat natin ang kalidad ng public mass transportation at panigurado, muling aarangkada din ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po and thank you, Representative Claudine Bautista, for this initiative. Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Sharon Garing of the party list Ambis OWA for her manifestation.
The Honorable Sharon Ganins recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to manifest my support to the statements of Congresswoman Claudine Bautista. Mr. Speaker, we have to consider that if the economy is open, 75%, but there's no public transportation, then the effect is very low. The economy is probably functioning about 50%. Added to that, with the losses of the economy, we have only about 17,000 jeepneys operating despite the fact that there are 55,000 in Metro Manila. There are 3,900 buses, city buses, that are operating despite the fact that there are 4,500, around 4,500 that are in the city of Manila. But and also there are 13,000 buses, provincial buses, that are not allowed to operate in Metro Manila. So that is basically about 45,000 public utility vehicles and public utility vehicle drivers that are not at work. In addition to that, we have about 40% of our 3 million workforce that are not working because there is no public utility vehicles. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a huge impact to the economy, and I do support fully the statements of Congresswoman Claudine Bautista, because this is essential to the economy. Even if we open all the businesses in Manila, in Metro Manila, and the surrounding cities in Metro Manila, but if there is no public transportation, there isn't sufficient public utility vehicles, then the economy will not start moving. This is the primary and the most important part of opening up our economy. It is having enough supply, more supply than demand for public transportation. So I would like to commend and my deepest gratitude also to Congresswoman Claudine Bautista, because this is an advocacy that is very laudable, and I salute her party list, and I salute her because she is putting this at the forefront. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Sharon Green, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Transportation, Representative Edgar Sarmiento from the 1st District of Samar, for his interpellation.
The Honorable Chairman, Edgar Marie Sarmiento, is recognized.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, my dear colleagues. Mr. Chair, rather than interpolating, Mr. Speaker, allow me to just manifest my strong support to the message delivered by the Vice Chairperson, Claudine Bautista, pertinent to, again, the plight of our drivers and the committing public, much more the public transportation system in Manila. It's so sad to know that we just have the budget hearing on the Committee on Transportation, and we were discussing a lot of things, Mr. Speaker. And again, we want to discuss this further. We want to reopen the economy, and we wanted to make sure that opening the economy, we also have to consider the inputs being relayed to us by the authorities, the frontliners to fight COVID-19, and this is, of course, the medical fields, the doctors and nurses. So again, Mr. Speaker, my sincere congratulations to the Vice Chairperson. I am in total support to the message that she delivered. Clearly, there is a lack of transportation, and we want to address it as soon as time. And of course, we're looking at as well the plights of the drivers, as we repeat. It was clearly stated, manifested well, and I'm hoping that we can address the problem as soon as time possible, Mr. Speaker. Again, congratulations, Vice Chair Claudine, and job well done. It's true, it's real. We just have to come up with a good solution to the problem right now. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Chair Claudine, for good work. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, my dear colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Sarmiento, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Nika Ko of the BHW party list for her manifestation.
The Honorable Nika Ko is hereby recognized.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I would like to manifest my support towards the addressing of the lack of transportation. I would also like to commend my colleague from Dumper PTDA party list, Congresswoman Claudine Bautista, for addressing this issue. Commuters are indeed the ones suffering, and I support the increase of public transportation. In fact, our barangay health workers have now a harder time going house to house to do their work because now they have to do it by foot. We have to add transportation groups to operate so that we can address this concern. This will also give us a leeway to physical distancing without the wait for another transportation. In the end, I know that we all have the same goal, to move our economy, our people, in a safe but efficient manner. So, to Congresswoman Bautista, I commend you for addressing this issue. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Nikam. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize Deputy Minority Leader Janet Garin from the 1st District of Iloilo for her interpellation.
The Honorable Deputy Minority Leader, Janet Green, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Maraming salamat po at narinig natin ang boses ng isang babae. Kung saan, Mr. Speaker, as a lady legislator, I'm also proud because we're hearing not only the voice of a promising member of the Honorable Congress, but we're hearing the voice of people on the ground. Bilang isang doktor, naniniwala po ako na yung kalusugan should be foremost in our consideration. However, public health and livelihood, ang kalusugan at ang kabuhayan goes hand in hand. May we have the comment of our distinguished colleague with regards to this? Mr. Speaker, if the Honorable Claudine Bautista can comment on the statement na kaakibat ng kalusugan ay kabuhayan.
Thank you, Honorable Garin. Yes, I agree to your statement. Ang kaakibat ng kabuhayan ay ang kalusugan. The only asset we have is our bodies, and we have to take care of our health. Anuhin pa natin ang kabuhayan kung tayo ay may sakit na. As they say, anuhin pa ang damo kung patay na ang kabayo. So I am very much agreeable to your statement, Honorable Garin.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, having been exposed on the grounds, ano po ang nakikita ni butihin natin Congresswoman Dindin Bautista sa nangyayari sa baba? Kapag po ba sabihin natin sa ating mga drivers na kalahati or less than kalahati ng kanilang kapasidad ang kanilang pasakayin, are they still going to pursue operating their jeepneys, their public transport vehicle, or their tricycles, or hindi na?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe last week lang we've met with some public transportation drivers, specifically the jeepney drivers, because we have given assistance to our jeepney drivers here in Metro Manila. And they say that it's better for them na kahit papano may nakukuha silang income kaysa wala at all. Majority of them hindi po nakatanggap ng social amelioration program, hindi nasali sa social amelioration program. So, ang nabigay po naming tulong sa kanila, although it came from DSWD as well, and it wasn't really the standard 8,000 social amelioration program na 8,000, pero masayang-masaya na po sila sa kahit 3,000 plus lang yung nabigay namin per driver. So I believe that even if they are operating in a lesser capacity, as long as they are being allowed to ply on the road and to earn their own income, rather than wait for donations or assistance from anyone, then mas gugustuhin nilang na bumalik sa kalye para mamasada.
Mr. Speaker, the reason I asked that, kasi yung ating pong mga drivers, pangunahin po sa kanilang kaisipan, ang tinatawag nating viable operation. Yung namamasada ka, pero hindi ka naman pwede mag-abono, dahil kung mag-aabono ka lang, bakit ka pa mamamasada? Kaakibat po ng bilang isang driver, nagbabayad ka ng amortization na iyong jeep or ng iyong tricycle or yung iyong motor. Kasama dyan, nagpapa-change oil ka. Marami pong wear and tear na binabayaran yung ating mga drivers. At yung ating mga drivers ay hindi po sila sinisweldohan ng buwanan. They're actually dependent on how much is their net income. And net income will actually mean magkano ang kinita nila minus their expenses. Kaya po, kapag hindi viable ang operation, maski sabihin po natin sa mga driver, pumasada kayo, hindi sila mamamasada. At kung hindi sila mamasada, dalawa po ang ipinagkakait natin ng pangkabuhayan at pagkain, ang kanilang pamilya at ang ating mga workers na wala namang pong sasakyan. Sa pananaw po ng ating butihing Congresswoman, lahat po ba ng Pilipinong workers ay merong kotse, sasakyan o kung motor na nagagamit papunta sa workplace?
Mr. Speaker, I think ang majority of our workers, as I mentioned in my speech earlier, heavily rely on public transportation. That's why we're making an appeal to have an increase in public transportation kasi marami sa ating manggagawa po ay walang pribadong sasakyan or motor na magamit nila para makalabas sila ng bahay nila or para pumunta sila sa trabaho.
Sa pananaw po, Mr. Speaker, ng ating kongresista, kapag po ang ating drivers ay binigyan naman ng sapat na guidelines para proteksyonan ang kanilang sarili, kagaya ng no talking while in a public transport, no eating while in a public transport, no unnecessary movements like taking off the mask, and no symptomatic patient in a public vehicle. Ito po ba ay makakabawas ng posibilidad na makapanghawa yung iba? At ang pangalawang katanungan po, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, kapag po ba ito ginawa, naiintindihan po ba ito? Kaya ba siyang intindihin ng drivers at ng ating workers? Kasi naman po, matatalino naman po ang mga Pilipino.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Garin, I believe that the workers and our drivers, as I mentioned again in my speech earlier, that they have a role to play in reducing or at least preventing the spread of the virus while they are taking public transportation. So na-mention ko nga po kanina na they have a responsibility and it is a crucial role that they have to make, that they have to practice safety health protocols while in lines or in the public utility vehicles. I think this is also a measure na in response also to the concerns of our doctors that we have to maintain the 1 meter physical distancing. So as I said earlier, ang ating mga commuters at drivers po ay may responsibilidad na to follow the safety health protocols.
Last question, Mr. Speaker, with the indulgence of our honorable colleague. Bilang isang Pilipino, mamarapatin ba natin magtulungan, bumangon, hawak kamay, coexist with the virus rather than just sit down and wait for a vaccine that we don't even know when it will come? Ano po ba ang gagawin natin? Tayo lang po ba uupo and allow COVID to manipulate us? Or tayo ay babangon, magtutulungan at lalabanan ang COVID by allowing livelihood and health to work together?
I believe that we have to work together in this fight so that, again, we can heal as one. There is a close relationship between our health and our economy and our livelihood, and I believe that we should all work together so we can move forward. We don't know when the vaccine will be available, and we don't know when things will normalize. So the best we can do right now is adapt to the new normal way of life.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po, and congratulations. You empower women. You make us proud of being a woman legislator. You make the Visayas proud of you, and the Mindanao.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minority Deputy Leader Sharon Garin, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Claudine Bautista and the manifestation interpellations to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So move.
Is there any objection? I hear none that the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to terminate the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? I hear none that the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on the third reading of the House Bill number 7068. For this purpose, may I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll of nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call for nominal voting.
House Bill number 7068, an act extending the period of availment of the estate tax amnesty, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 11213, otherwise known as the Tax Amnesty Act. Roll call of members for consideration in third reading of House Bill number 7068. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barsaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabuchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castelo Franz, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizalde, Cuanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Cuaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dago, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Goed, Gomark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Guriseta, Gico, Gullias, Guya, Haresco, Toman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Alusos, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lago, Lara, Dasatin, Liatson, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malaniaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwaña Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Pajernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Sabeliano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tana Liza, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate, Subiri. Second call for consideration on third reading of House Bill Number 7068. Abante, Abaya, Adjong, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bernos, Bulut, Caminero, Castro Fredenil, Chungalaw, Co Elizalde, Coanco, De Jesus, Duavit, Enverga, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Fortun, Carbin, Heron, Gonzaga, Gico, Guya, Aresco, Haloshos, Javier, Conghun, Lagon, Liachon, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nunez Malaniaon, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Pacquiao Alberto, Pancho, Pineda, Reyes, Rivera, Sakdalan, Suarez Aleta, Taduran, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Torres Gomez, T. Alan, Uy Rolando, Veloso, Villarica, Yu, Zamora Waikurat, Zubiri.
The result of the nominal voting on House Bill number 7068, affirmative 209, negative 0, abstention 0. House Bill number 7068 is now approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we approve for consideration on third reading House Bill number 7575. Printed copies of which were distributed to the members pursuant to the rules. For this purpose, may I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill Number 7575, an act establishing the Bulacan Airport City, Special Economic Zone and Freeport, Province of Bulacan, and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call of members for consideration and third reading of House Bill Number 7575. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Matong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barsaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizalde, Coanco, Colliantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Ulyamat, Dagook, Daliped, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Delmar, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Rigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentevella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchelian, Gato, Heron, Go Edmark, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Haloshos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal-Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Núñez Malanyaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwaño Dison, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Pajernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yada Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangcopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savillano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Nihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez, Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alaisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tihada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Talentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Balmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waykurat, Zarate Subiri. Second call, members, for consideration of third reading of House Bill Number 7575. 7575 and 7576. Abante, Abaya, Adjong, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bernos, Bulut, Caminero, Castro Fredenil, Chungalao, Coelizalde, Cuanco, De Jesus, Duavit.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our parliamentary status is that we are taking up for approval on third reading House Bill 7575.
Second fall for consideration on third reading of House Bill number 7575. Abante, Abaya, Adjong, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bernos, Bulut, Caminero, Castro Fredenil, Chungalao, Coelizalde, Cuanco, De Jesus, Duavit, Inverga, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Fortun, Garbin, Gonzaga, Gico, Haresco, Halosos, Javier, Conghun, Lagon, Liachon, Mangudadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nunez Malaniaon, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Pacquiao Alberto, Pancho, Pineda, Reyes, Rivera, Sakdalan, Suarez Aleta, Taduran, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Torres Gomez, Tialan, Uy Rolando, Viloso, Villarica, Yu, Zamora, Waikurat, and Subiri.
The result of the nominal voting on House Bill 7575, affirmative 205, negative 0, abstention 1.
Bakit?
6, negative. I repeat, affirmative 205, negative 6, abstention 1. Majority.
Mr. Speaker. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, may we recognize Representative Arlene Brosas of Gabriela Party List for her explanation of vote.
The Honorable Arlene Brosas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Gabriela Women's Party votes no to the bill creating the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport Authority, as this ecozone is inextricably linked to the environmentally and socially devastating Bulacan Aerotropolis project. This special economic zone will further reinforce the import-dependent and export-oriented nature of our trade and economy, as it will be positioned logistically beside the Aerotropolis. Hindi batayang pambansang industriya ang sisibol sa loob ng economic zone na ito, kundi mga negosyo at pabrika pa rin na nakasandig sa low-value added exports at costly imports. At tulad ng iba pang special economic zones, magiging malaking zona ito ng walang humpay na pagsasamantala sa mga manggagawa at dislokasyon ng mga magbubukid sa Bulacan at karatig probinsya. Open-ended ang sasaklawing lupain ng proyektong ito. Sa initial estimate, more than 10,000 hectares ang sasaklawin ng Special Economic Zone na ito. Kaya isa ito sa pinakamalaking ecozone sa bansa, bagamat napakaliit ng aktwal na benepisyong maaaring ibigay sa mamamayan. Dahil questionable ang feasibility at environmental compliance ng Aerotropolis, lumalabas na usapin din ito sa pagtatayo ng Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone. Hindi maaaring ibalik ang mga mangroves, fishing communities, at migratory birds na maaaring mawala dahil sa proyektong ito. For these reasons, we vote no to House Bill 7575. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Arlene Brosas, Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move for consideration on third reading House Bill number 7576, copies of which were distributed to the members pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, may I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill Number 7576, an act establishing the Surigao del Sur Special Economic Zone and free port in the municipalities of Carrascal, Cantilan, Madrid, Carmen, and Lanusa, province of Surigao del Sur, and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call of members for consideration of third reading of House Bill Number 7576. Abante, Abaya, Bellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barsaga, Basco, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulut, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Coangelica, Coelizalde, Coanco, Coliantes, Crisólogo, Cuwa, Cuaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dagoc, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino, Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentevella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Guriseta, Gico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Ataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halusos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Leachon, Legarda, Lim, Limcaychong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Núñez Malanyaon, Waminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dison, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Pajernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Ichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yadamari, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Calceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangcopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Sabellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Eliza, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Shirley, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Sarate, Subiri. Second call for consideration and third reading of House Bill Number 7576. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Agaraw, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Comentado, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bernos, Bulut, Kabatbat, Caminero, Cari, Castro Fredenil, Chungalaw, Co Elizalde, Coanco, De Jesus, Duavit, Di Faustino Ino, Enverga, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Garbin, Gonzaga, Gonzales Sandro, Gico, Haresco, Halushos, Javier, Konghun, Lagon, Liachon, Mangudadatu, Macocoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nunez Malaniaon, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Pacquiao Alberto, Pancho, Pineda, Rivera, Sakdalan, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, Taduran, Tan Eliza, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Shirley, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Torres Gomez, T. Alan, Uy Rolando, Veloso, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villar, Villarica, Yu, Zamora, Waikurat, and Subiri.
The result of the nominal voting on House Bill number 7576, affirmative 208, negative 6, abstention 1. House Bill number 7576 is now approved on third and final reading. And I would like also to put on record and state on record and reformation that House Bill 7575 is now approved on third reading with the vote of affirmative 205, negative 6, abstention 1. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the omnibus motion for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 7522, 7536, 7573, 7574. And for this purpose, may I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill and call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill Number 7522, an act establishing a technical education and skills development authority, training and assessment center in the municipality of Cabagan, province of Isabela, to be known as the Cabagan Isabela TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefore. House Bill Number 7536, an act establishing a technical education and skills development authority, training and assessment center in the municipality of Pulilan, province of Bulacan, to be known as Pulilan Bulacan TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefore. House Bill number 7573, an act establishing a technical education and skills development authority, training and assessment center in the city of Balanga, province of Bataan, to be known as the Balanga City Bataan TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefore. And House Bill number 7574, an act establishing a technical education and skills development authority, training and assessment center in the municipality of Rodriguez, province of Rizal, to be known as the Rodriguez Rizal TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefore. Roll call of members for consideration of third reading of House Bill number 7522, 7536, 7573, and 7574. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascu, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabutsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizalde, Cuanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cuwa, Cuaresma, Cueva, Culyamat, Dago, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, V. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Goed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Gico, Gullias, Guya, Harresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halosos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Elisa, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Ligarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangundadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Núñez Malanyaon, Umaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Pajernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Ichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yada Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Sabeliano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Mihan, Sinswat, Suansing Estrelita, Suansing Horacio, Suarez Saleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Eliza, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, Tialan, Tijego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva, Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Sarate, and Subiri. Second call for consideration of third reading of House Bill numbers 7522, 7536, 7573, and 7574. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Agaraw, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Aumentado, Banyas Nograles, Baronda, Bernos, Bulut, Kabatbat, Caminero, Cari, Castro Fredinil, Chungalaw, Coelizalde, Cuanco, De Jesus, Duavit, Di Faustino Ino, Inverga, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Garbin, Gonzaga, Gonzales Sandro, Gico, Aresco, Halusos, Javier, Konghun, Lagon, Liachon, Mangunda Datu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mendoza, Mercado, Nava, Nunez Malanyaon, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Pacquiao Alberto, Pancho, Pineda, Rivera, Sakdalan, Silverio, Sinson, Sinsuat, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, Taduran, Tan Eliza, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Torres Gomez, T. Alan, Uy Rolando, Veloso, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villar, Villarica, Yu, Zamora Waikurat, and Subiri.
The result of the nominal voting on House Bill numbers 7522, 7536, 7573, and 7574, affirmative 216, negative 0, abstention 0. Majority Leader. House Bill numbers 7522, 7536, 7573, and 7574 is now approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all bills approved on third reading be transmitted to the Senate.
The Secretary General is so directed to transmit all the bills approved on third reading to the Senate. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we begin consideration of House Bill 5989 as contained in Committee Report number 200. Could the Secretary General be directed to read the title of said House Bill? So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill.
House Bill number 5989, an act creating the Department of Disaster Resilience, defining its mandate, powers, and functions, and appropriating funds therefore.
Mr. Speaker, our parliamentary status regarding House Bill number 5989 is that we are in the period of amendments. I move that we recognize our esteemed chairman of the Committee on Government Reorganization, the Honorable Marvin Marino. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The committee chairman, Marvin Marino, is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, to propose our parliamentary status is we are in the period of amendments. To propose his individual amendment, I move that we recognize our esteemed chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means from the 2nd District of Albay, the Honorable Joey Sarte Salceda. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Chairman Joey Salceda is recognized.
Thank you very much. May the Honorable Chairman of the Government Reorg further admit to certain amendments?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
On number 1, on Section 3, definition of terms, page 6, line 10, between the period and the word unless, comma, insert the following sentences. Disasters are often described as a result of the combination of the exposure to a hazard, the conditions of vulnerability that are present, and insufficient capacity or measures to reduce or cope with the potential negative consequences. Disaster impacts may include loss of life, injury, disease, and other negative effects on human, physical, mental, and social well-being, together with damage to property, destruction of assets, loss of services, social and economic disruption, and environmental degradation, period.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority
we move for
Leader.
the adoption of the amendment of the Honorable Salceda, this sponsor having concurred earlier. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there objection? The chair hears none. The amendment's adopted.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Chairman Salceda has the floor.
On
Please proceed.
Second Amendment, on page 15, line 6, between the word functions and period, insert the following sentence. Close, open quotation, semicolon, provided further, comma, that the department shall remain as the lead agency in recovery and rehabilitation efforts in collaboration with all stakeholders when applicable, close parentheses.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
What does the House say?
Mr. Speaker, we move for the approval of the amendment of the esteemed Chairman Joey Salceda. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
May I propose
Proceed.
another amendment? On Article 12, funds and Resources, page 41, line 21, insert new section 57. Section 57, National Disaster Resilience Fund. Thus, close open, small letter A, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund created under Section 22 of Republic Act 10121, otherwise known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act of 2010, appropriated under the Annual General Appropriation Act, is hereby renamed as the National Disaster Resilience Fund and shall be managed and controlled by the department. The NDRF shall be used for disaster risk reduction or mitigation, prevention, and preparedness activities such as training of personnel, procurement of equipment, and capital expenditure. It can also be utilized for relief, recovery, reconstruction, and other work or services in connection with natural or human-induced calamities which may occur during the budget year or those that occurred in the past 2 years from the budget year. Letter B, 30% of the amount appropriated for the NDRF shall be allocated as quick response fund or standby fund and shall also be under the management and control of the department. The QRF shall be used for relief and recovery programs to quickly normalize the situation and living conditions of people in communities or areas stricken by disasters, calamities, epidemics, or complex emergencies, and other related programs, projects, and activities formulated at the national level. That's the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
What does the sponsor say?
Mr. Speaker, these are brilliant amendments from a brilliant mind. We accept, Mr. Speaker.
What does the House say?
Mr. Speaker, we move for the approval of the amendment as proposed by the esteemed Chairman Joey Salceda. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the amendments? The chair here is none. The amendment is approved.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank Honorable Salceda, also my co-chairperson, Chairperson Lucy Torres Gomez, and also the TWG members, the chairpersons, Honorable Yeda Romualdez, and also the authors, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to recognize the esteemed Congressman Sergio Dagook for his amendments. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Sergio Dagook is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have no more amendments, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Sponsor, my proposed amendments to the Committee on Government Reform has already been considered in the proposed amendments of our idol chair of the Ways and Means. I would like to thank our Ways and Means chair and my chair of the Committee on Government Reform for considering our proposal.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendments regarding House Bill 5989 as found in Committee Report 200. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? I hear none, then the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval on second reading of House Bill 5989. So move, Mr. Speaker.
All those who are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 5989 is approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the rules governing inquiries in aid of legislation, I move that we refer the following House resolutions to the appropriate committees. House Resolution 1105 to the Veterans Affairs and Welfare. House Resolution 1108 to Basic Education and Culture and Higher and Technical Education. House Resolution 1109 to Basic Education and Culture. House Resolution 1110 to Agriculture and Food. House Resolution 1111 to National Defense and Security and Public Order and Safety. House Resolution 1112 to Civil Service and Professional Regulation. House Resolution 1118 to Welfare of Children. House Resolution 1120 to Natural Resources. House Resolution 1125 to defeat COVID-19. House Resolution 1126 to labor and employment. House Resolution 1128 to games and amusement. House Resolution 1131 to National Defense and Security and Public Order and Safety. House Resolution 1133 to transportation. House Resolution 1134 to defeat COVID-19. House Resolution 1139 to agriculture and food. House Resolution 1140 to basic education and culture and higher and technical education. House Resolution 1141 to natural resources. House Resolution 1142 to housing and urban development. House Resolution 1143 to justice. House Resolution 1145 to national defense and security and public order and safety. House Resolution 1149 to banks and financial intermediaries. House Resolution 1150 to basic education and culture. House Resolution 1151 to transportation. House Resolution 1153 to ecology. House Resolution 1154 to national defense and security and public order and safety. House Resolution 1155 to women and gender equality. House Resolution 1162 to agrarian reform. House Resolution 1163 to public order and safety. House Resolution 1166 to civil service and professional regulation. House Resolution 1169 to transportation. House Resolution 1170 to aquaculture and fisheries resources. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the referrals of the following House resolutions to the appropriate committees? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the change of referral of the following measures. House Bills number 6781, 7049, and 7153, providing for a national digital transformation policy. From the Committee on Information and Communications Technology to the Committees on Economic Affairs and Information and Communications Technology. House Bill numbers 1518 and 7378, Accessible Crematories Act, from the Committee on Social Service to the Committee on Health. House Bill numbers 3394 and 7542, providing for the strengthening of agriculture education and training in the Philippines, from the Committee on Agriculture and Food to the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion for the change of referral of the following measures. There's an objection. I hear none, then the motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration of House Resolution number 1200 and direct the Secretary General to read the title.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the bill.
House Resolution,
Resolution.
number 1200, a resolution expressing the profound condolence of the House of Representatives on the passing of Maria Azucena Vera Perez Maceda, more fondly known as Manay Ichu, a pillar and vanguard of the Philippine movie industry.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution 1200. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. House Resolution 1200 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the session until September 16, 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Is there the session suspended until tomorrow, September 16 at 3 p.m.
Oh, selfie. Boss, the selfie king. The selfie king. Ma'am.